Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Frank Ticos dropping knowledge. I'm not at work, as you can see. I'm actually in my patio. I took a few hours off because I was feeling a little bit under the weather. But one of my purposes this year is to try to gain traction on my channel, and if I can, put out a video on the daily. So this is my second video of the year. As you guys know, and if you've seen my other videos, after doing this, I'm probably going to start my 6 p.m. class, which is exactly what I'm going to do. But I wanted to take the time to reach out and make a video, post it up, and hopefully it reaches you, it touches you, it makes you think. Like that's the purpose. For me, this is therapeutic. I'm really not doing it for the likes or for the money, although it would be nice. This has more to do with just me being able to talk about life in general, and if there's anything that can help any one of you improve something or really check into something in your life that maybe you shouldn't be doing, well, and if this video helps you do that, or any of my videos helps you do that, well, no, that's pretty much the goal I'm trying to accomplish. Now, today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about myself. You know, um, I know that there's a lot of channels that talk about prison. They're called prison channels, whatever. I wouldn't like to be pigeonholed in that aspect. But to be honest, the whole purpose of me even being here, even being in this country, even doing what I'm doing is because I did live through that experience. I did go through prison. I was in the state penitentiary in CDC. And it all started from a young age that I started to rebel. And why did I rebel? I'm sure that a lot of you are going to understand, what it is to grow up being a Latino, in the States. I wasn't born, obviously, in the States, but I grew up there. And if anything, my children would have been the first generation, like my nephews are, which are in the States. They're like the first generation of our family to have been born in the States. But I wasn't born in the States, but I was raised there. I was taken there when I was 3. Part of the reason why I rebelled, against, the rules of my house, and ended up out there on the streets just doing what I was doing, getting involved in a lot of criminal activity, is the culture clash. One minute you're at home and listening to your parents, the way they express themselves, the mentality that they have, which was all fostered and nurtured in a different country, in a third world country to be exact. And then when you step out the door, you live in the States. You're speaking English, you're trying to get involved in the things that everyone else is doing, but for some reason there was no connection between home and my life at school and with my friends. So whether it's an excuse or not, I don't want to excuse my actions on that, but the reality was that there was a disconnect. In who I was and what I could become. Hearing one thing from my parents, which, I do understand that, the fears that they had, unfortunately, they inadvertently, they tried to instill in me, because of the situation that we were in legally, to being out there and listening to your teacher say, hey man, you could do anything you want. You can grow up and become whatever you want to be. So there was a mixed message, Unfortunately, because of, whatever rough relationship I had with my dad in particular, I didn't want to be home, and because I didn't want to be home, I ended up out there on the streets, hanging out, chilling, but little by little, the more I hung out, the more I realized that in order for me to hang out and not go home, I needed to at least make money. And obviously I wasn't going to go with my parents and ask them for money because number one, they weren't rich. Number two, they weren't like that. Like, they weren't the type, or they, at that moment, my parents have really changed throughout the years. But at that moment, it wasn't like I could just ask them for money and they would give it to me. That was not going to happen, right? Especially if I was out there on the street acting a fool, getting into fights, getting into bullshit. They were definitely not going to give me money to continue with that lifestyle. So what ended up happening was, the more you hang out, the more you start to kick it, the more people that you meet that are involved in criminal activity, the more attractive it becomes. And, pretty soon I was out there stealing pagers, I was stealing peepers off of people, and that led to me, breaking into cars and stealing whole sound systems, and pretty soon, when people knew, people started to realize that, hey, I need a pager, bottom price. I'll just go and talk to Frank about it. Hey, I need a stereo. I could just tell Frank, and I'm sure Frank will get it for me at a good price. And little by little, I started developing that aspect of my life. I was always a good student, thank God. And that's kind of what saved me from going to YA. Because when I started getting locked up, and I ended up going to Sylmar Juvenile Hall, they were really thinking about sending me to CYA. But because of my grades, I was spared. And I ended up going to a boys' home. Now, little was I to know that at this boys' home, I would end up surrounded by other criminal-minded individuals such as myself. And because of, how hard we wanted to be, we ended up kind of controlling the program. We ended up playing the program and manipulating it to the point where the staff and everyone that was there felt like we were really running a good program. We were doing what we were supposed to. We would speak at the meetings and all of these things. But little did they know that we were taxing all these guys that were going home on the weekends, or when their parents would visit them and bring them things, hey, they would have to kick down. Apart from that, I don't want to mention any names, but, some of us got involved with some of the female staff, to where when we started getting the, permission to go home on the weekends, and we started earning their trust, eventually I would go home on a Friday at 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m., sure enough, the staffer would go pick me up, go to the movies, go have dinner, and go to the apartment, and that was it. And you know what's up. I don't have to go beyond that. So, after a year and 6 months of being in that program, I graduated. I graduated with money. I was dating one of the staffers. What lesson would a kid like me learn if not thinking I can manipulate anybody? So instead of being a learning experience for me to change, it actually put me in a situation in which I felt that I could just do whatever I wanted and I wouldn't get caught. But sure enough, a year and a few months later, I was facing 25 to life, and with 3 other crimies in the old county jail, because I was never able, or I never saw the inside of the Twin Towers. And then going to Wayside, going to Supermax, fighting my case, and ended up getting taking a plea deal of 4 years and 8 months. I ended up going upstate, and after my time upstate, I got shipped down here. And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Sometimes we become so good at manipulating, so good at getting our way, so good at twisting the rules, that we don't know how to live a normal life. One of the things that coming down here taught me was, you know, you either get, I don't know if I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, but there's a line in there that Andy Dufresne says, the lead character, where he says, you either get busy living or you get busy dying. And when I touched down, and I was given a second opportunity at life in the form of deportation to my country of origin, my first thought was, this is my real, this is a second opportunity at life, and I could choose to be a manipulator, or I could choose to live my life righteously. And 22 years later, here you have me. I have a son, he's 21 years old. I have my daughter, she's 15. They live with me. They're inside. I got my little dog. I have a place to stay. I have a job. I feel that I've been blessed, because there have been so many other people that have gone through what I've gone through that ended up dead. A lot of the dudes that came down that were deported for a while were getting killed. I'm talking about, sorry about that, I'm moving the camera with my knee. I'm talking about that on the yearly, I would see 30, 40 people getting killed down here because they didn't know how to adapt. The only way that you can survive and make it through from one situation to another is adaptability and being honest and real about what you do. If the game that you play is manipulation, you'll end up losing. And that's the real. I can't sit here and say that I'm a mastermind, a criminal mind. No, because I got caught and I'm here. I was given a second opportunity at life, and trust me, I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it. So my message to you today is this. Yes, it's easy to hustle people. Yes, you can come up on others. And that might never lead you to go to the pen or to get locked up. But will it gain you trust from others? Will you be respected? How will your children remember you if you ever end up dead and gone? Will people think about you in the best light? Or will you be known as a con man, a manipulator, and someone that can't be trusted? I remember one of the experiences that changed me when I came down here was that, I started going to church. I don't go to church anymore. I don't believe in the church. I do believe in God. But I was going to a church, and I remember that I became friends with a lot of people, a lot of church-going people. And this old lady, this really old lady, like probably 75, 78 years old. She was kind of having a hard time walking around. So I ended up taking her. She lived like across the street from where I went to church. So I crossed the street, I helped her cross the street. And she invited me in, and some other people. She invited us in, and she gave me coffee. And I remember sitting down and thinking, had this lady known me 4 years ago, she would never have opened her doors to let me in. And that's something that money cannot buy. So, if anything, the message to you is this: live your life righteously. Do whatever it takes to change your manipulative ways, if you still have them, and start trying to live your life to the fullest extent with transparency, with honesty, and with honor. And trust me, your relationships will grow, your connections will grow, God will bless you. And only then will you see what it truly means to be alive. With that, I just wanted to tell you guys, let's keep on keeping on. Let's make this life that we have the best life that we can possibly have. Living righteously, loving others, respecting others, and doing what we know we need to do to live a righteous life. Have a great evening, everyone. Peace.